Well, it's wonderful to be here. Thank you, Liz. That was amazing. So I'm clinical lead of a nutrition clinic called NatureDoc. I've got two of my team in the audience who are longevity specialists, Caroline and Daisy. Hello. And I'm going to talk about how to keep your brain sharp during midlife and later on. So how do we keep our brain sharp? Well, there are lots of things that we can do, keeping it hydrated, lots of nutrient-dense foods, prioritising sleep, etc., etc. But I'm going to talk about three main things that we can take home from today and really work on to help to culture a healthy brain. Okie dokes. So the most research when it comes to nutrition and supporting long-term brain health is something called the Mediterranean diet. You've probably heard about it. If you want to get really narrow, it's called the MIND diet, M-I-N-D diet. And essentially it means eating the rainbow every single day. So it means filling your plate, even at breakfast, with lots of lovely coloured fruits and vegetables. So it could be some blueberries, it could be some kale, it could be some watercress, it doesn't matter, just get colour on your plate. Okie dokes. And then the central part of the Mediterranean diet is lots of lovely healthy fats. Liz mentioned omega-3. I'm going to do a bit of a deep dive into that in a moment, but it's that lovely olive oil. I know olive oil has got incredibly expensive, but it is an incredibly important investment in your health. Not just for skin health, but also your brainio, okay? Avocado's great, and then the oily fish is amazing too, and then nuts and seeds. So try and get a portion of one or two of these each day onto your plate. Okie dokes. And then getting fibre into your diet. Now, fibre doesn't just make you go to the loo. It also helps to create something called short-chain fatty acids in your gut, and that helps to bring down inflammation and helps to keep your DNA strong. So it's really, really important to think about fibre. And that could be chia seeds, it could be flax seeds, or just kiwi fruit, or just lots and lots of lovely fruits and vegetables. And then we always forget about lovely herbs and spices. You know, we should learn so much from our friends, you know, from overseas, because in the UK, I'm afraid our food is a little bit boring, but even parsley, sage, thyme is all really good for the brain. Think sage, bright brains. Also rosemary, really important for cognition. So do add those spices, they really do count, even if you don't particularly like your fruit and veg. And you can get these things called microgreens, which you can buy in the supermarkets now. They're a bit like mustard and cress. Snip them onto your eggs or whatever, even if you haven't got time to actually prep veg, okay? But the most important thing is that we choose real food over the ultra-processed food. Ultra-processed food might be handy, it might be convenient, but unfortunately it's very hard to find in those foods any decent amount of iron, zinc, B vitamins, omega-3, calcium, all those vital nutrients for our brains. So do have them occasionally, but prioritise lovely, fresh, whole foods. And cooking from scratch is such a great skill to have, because when you cook, you can have autonomy over the food that you put in. So you can put better olive oil, better herbs, better quality meat, a variety of different vegetables, whereas Mr. Supermarket is going to dictate the same food over and over again, and they will be very cheap versions of those foods. So you can get better quality foods when you cook from scratch. Okay, so here's a bit of research just to show that I'm not making it up. Okay. Now, the second thing I want to talk about is keeping your blood sugars balanced. Now, when you look at the research around cognitive decline, it seems that people with type 2 diabetes are really, really prone to developing dementia and Alzheimer's. Why might this be the case? Because every single time your blood sugar does a roller coaster, that is sending inflammation to your brain, okay? And your microglia, which are the housekeepers in your brain, are meant to, every night, do a bit of cleaning up and sweeping, clearing it out. But if there's lots of inflammation due to these blood sugar highs and lows, guess what? It's not going to do a great job. So the brain gets more and more clogged up over the years, okay? So trying to balance your blood sugars is really vital, and you do not need to be diabetic. So if you eat breakfast and you are trying to grab a biscuit or some fruit or whatever it might be within 2 hours of having breakfast, then you probably haven't had enough protein and you're having a bit of a blood sugar low. So food should, in theory, if you have a decent, what I call a balanced meal with enough protein and healthy fats, you should be able to last for 4 hours. So that is a really good clue to think whether your blood sugars are being managed or not. Now, food really does play a massive role in this. And as I said, Liz has said 30 grams of protein at each meal. Sometimes that's quite hard to achieve, but you can do it. And cottage cheese, prawns, eggs, nuts, seeds, all of those things are really good at bolstering up your protein, okay? So that can be really helpful. And also, I think with snacks, so often when we are snacking, we tend to grab fruit because it's healthy, or some rice cakes, or some breadsticks. Now, they are healthy, but the trouble is they're all carb. So again, they're going to put you on that roller coaster, blood sugar highs and lows. So try and balance that with some protein. So it could be an apple and some cheese, or some rice cakes and some hummus, and then you'll feel much more satiated, and that snack will actually serve you well, rather than being on that crazy kind of grazing chaos. Okie doke. So here, again, more evidence about type 3 diabetes. So that is what they think that the aging brain is experiencing in many cases. Righty-ho. Now, omega-3 fatty acids, the most important fat that your brain needs. About 40% of the fat in your brain is something called DHA. Now, DHA we learn about in pregnancy for children as well, in terms of the developing brain. But if you eat a piece of fish or you buy a fish oil supplement, it will almost always have a combination of DHA and EPA. Now, DHA helps with things like, it's everything to do with your frontal and prefrontal cortex, executive function. What's the first thing that will happen to you if you're wondering about your brain aging? You'll start losing your keys. You'll become forgetful. So we need to improve our executive brain function, okay? The other thing that can happen is that you might start to feel like you want to retreat from life. You may become underconfident. You may want to stay at home. You don't want to go to a social event. That is one of the first signs that you may be going into a mild cognitive decline. Okay, so that's the first stage. It's not forgetfulness. It's actually wanting to be alone. Okay, so if that is happening to you, again, feed your brain with lots of omega-3. Now, it can be salmon, it can be sardines, it can be mackerel. All of those things are fantastic. It can even be seafood. Now, one of my favorite omega-3 experts is called Professor Michael Crawford. He is the most phenomenal guy. He celebrated his 95th birthday this year, and he's just written a book. It's called The Shrinking Brain, because he has looked at skulls over thousands and thousands of years, and yes, the human brain is getting smaller and smaller. And he puts it down to not eating enough shellfish and seafood. So we want to be more Michael, don't we, right? Eat more shellfish, right? More omega-3. And as Liz said, if you don't like it, do take an omega-3 supplement. They're very good now. The really good brands, they purify, they take out all the PCBs, all the mercury, all the things that people might worry about eating fish, okay? And they often are sustainable. So it's okay. And if you're plant-based, it's totally okay to have a marine algae-based supplement too, because the fish eat the algae and that's what gives them the omega-3. Now, the good news is organic milk, so whole organic milk, and also grass-fed meat also does contain some good omega-3, so it's okay to have those too. So you can get it mainly through diet if you eat a whole, rounded diet. How can you tell if you're deficient? Well, Dr. Alex Richardson, who's an amazing researcher in omega-3, she's based at Oxford, she said, you've got to check out if someone's looking dry. Dry skin, dry hair, okay? But it could be like dry asthma or dry eczema, so anything that's super dry in the body. It could be dehydration, always wanting to drink lots of water. But the big sign that she pointed out was something called keratosis pilaris, which is chicken skin at the top of the arms. It's where it feels a little bit like sandpaper and it's a little bit rough. It can be on the cheeks, it can be on the top of the legs and the tummy. So if you get that, have more omega-3. It might serve you really, really well in terms of your brain as well as your skin. So here, again, is lots of lovely information about omega-3 and fighting Alzheimer's. Righty-ho. So I'm going to round up with 5 amazing brain foods that we can all have in our fridges or in our store cupboards, which we can eat every day. And these are the vital ones that I think would really serve you really, really well. So my favourite, I'm known as Mrs. Blueberry, because I call them brainberries, and all my kids' friends just laugh because they say you always have blueberries because they're so important. The purple pigment in blueberries does help the blood flow to the brain, okay? So it's really important. You can get the same effect from things like beetroot, pomegranate, all the purple and blue foods. So it's okay, it doesn't just need to be blueberries, but blueberries happen to be very tasty, and also most researchers looked into it to find that you can have just as much focus in the morning as well as 4 o'clock in the afternoon, having just had a handful of blueberries at breakfast. So blueberries are good. The next ones are eggs. Eggs obviously contain good levels of protein, but they also contain choline, and choline is a fabulous brain food. It helps with learning, memory, self-regulation, and emotional regulation. So eat lots of eggs. There's no problem with the cholesterol there. Then the oily fish, I've talked about that already. And then lots of lovely nuts and seeds. It's so lovely to be able to just add a few to salads or porridge or granola or whatever it might be. And they contain things like zinc and magnesium, which are so vital for the brain. And then my absolute favourite, I am 100% dark chocolate. It has helped my ADHD more than anything, any intervention ever. I have at least 4 squares for breakfast, and it really has changed my life. So dark chocolate is phenomenal. I'm say 65% and above, ideally 70%. I have 85 because I've really built it up. 90 is a bit too heavy for me. But anyway, that's really good. And that, again, like the blueberries, helps with the brain flow. So it's really interesting. I've always had cold hands and feet, and I think it's my circulation. And I think the blueberries and the chocolate, it helps with the circulation. We want cerebral circulation. So that's really important. So these are great foods that you can eat every single day, and you will love, and your brain will love too. Okie dokes, thanks for listening. Oh yes, that's my bird.